Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Roll Call. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson, best known for playing Varnast Halmaru in the Explorers of Farah campaign and Morwen Dulski in the Salamander Coast. And on this episode of Roll Call, I have overall a newcomer to the RWA family. I have John from the Explorers of Farah, best known for playing Tauren. Hey, John.
Hello. Hi.
And, along with playing Tauren, you've also recently started DMing your own separate campaign on RWA, but it's separate from Illica. It's in its own world.
Correct.
The continent of Ephera, if I recall. No relation.
Continent of Ephera in the world of Evrand.
But there's an I. Like, it's not...
Correct, yes.
Right? Yeah, it's completely different.
Yes. Totally different.
Yeah, okay, cool. As, like, one of the newest, because, like, you and Eric are probably, like, the newest people to the RWA family in terms of the players. So I had a couple of questions for you. When it comes to the Ephera games, like, everyone else in terms of, like, Salamander Coast was, like, the college group that, like, Joe knew. Like, they'd known each other for, like, years. And Isles was very much, like, a bunch of the players from, like, an old campaign that Joe played with his friends. Ephera is very much kind of like us newcomers coming into Joe's life. And so you had to go through an application process to join Ephera, if I recall correctly.
I did.
So I was curious because I don't think I actually read the application because, I was already in the game. I don't know if he just copied and pasted what the original application was when I applied, or if he made a new one. Like, I honestly don't know. So, I mean, what about the Explorers of Ephera application kind of stood out to you and made you go, hey, this is a game I want to at least look into, even if you weren't going to, like, hard commit immediately. But, like, what kind of stood out about the application that you were like, I'm going to, I'm interested in this. Let's kind of see what it has to offer.
Yeah, so before looking at the application and, like, looking at for a game in general, I had been a forever DM for the past 2.5 years prior. I'd never played in a campaign fully, and after my last campaign ended, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna look for an actual game to play in instead of DMing. I think I came across it on Reddit.
I believe LS did make a Reddit post.
Yeah,
I believe that makes sense.
And I got onto the Roll20 board and looked at the application, and it was super cool. And the main thing that drew me to it was there was a link to the YouTube channel, and I clicked on it and I started watching some of it, and I was like, oh man, these people are heavy into roleplay and they're really good at it. And myself loving roleplay as well in D&D, and loving to do funny voices and really dive into a character. It just felt like, yeah, this seems like the group of people I want to play with. So I put my application in. I put in 2 characters, one of which was a tiefling named Enrali, who was a sorcerer or wizard, I forget. And the other was Tauren. And yeah, from there I got picked, and there was a whole interview process, and I luckily got in.
If I remember correctly, because it's been a few months now, like, do you remember when you joined?
Like the month?
Yeah, I mean, not like the specific day, but like, March? No, I mean, it's April. That was stupid. I mean, was it like January? Was it earlier?
It was before January.
November.
I believe
October?
It was in September.
September. Holy cow.
Because December is the holidays and stuff. Maybe it was... I think it was December. I think it was early December.
Okay, December then. Okay, I was about to say,
yeah.
Like, you've not been around since September. No way.
No, my other game ended in November, so it would have been...
Oh, got it, okay.
Shortly after.
Okay, right on. Out of curiosity, just because I'm curious as to, like, do you know, like, which episode you listened to? Not, like, the title of it or what number it was, but do you remember, like, anything that happened in that episode? I'm just kind of curious as to, like, what your first introduction was. Was it even in a Farah episode?
I believe it was an Ephera episode, and I think I specifically looked for an Ephera episode because I believe the application said Explorers of Ephera. I believe it was the ship battle or whatever where you guys blew up the ship. I don't remember his name.
Duradine Dupree.
Yeah, and there was like a big old demon person that came out.
Yeah, that was a time. That was someone that we had been hunting for like months and dealing with this bullshit.
So that's what I was introduced to.
Very satisfying when he died. Very satisfying.
I could tell.
Oh yeah. Oh man. All right, so curious. I'm just kind of curious for like my own sake, honestly. So like, how did you actually feel about the interview process? Because for those of you watching, Joe basically conducted the interview, and then myself and a couple of the others were basically kind of listening. We chimed in kind of here and there, if I recall, but for the most part, we kind of let Joe take the lead. And did you feel like that was kind of overwhelming? Did you actually like how the interview was conducted? I'm just kind of curious about, as a new player, how did you kind of feel about it?
I was nervous about it. I was excited and nervous. I remember telling my wife about it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm interviewing for this D&D game, and they're like really cool, and from what I've seen, really good role players and everything." And her reaction was, "You're interviewing for a D&D game?" To which I said yes, and it was fun. There was a lot of people actually that wanted to get in. The application had a lot of people. And I remember when I joined the Discord, many people followed, if not were already here from that application. And people were messaging all in the general chat of like, "Oh, I'm here for this game on Discord, blah, blah, blah." And it was definitely the most unique thing I've ever done to get into a game for D&D.
Yeah.
But it was fun at the same time. And it also made me realize how important the game is to you all before I joined. Because not a lot of people would do that. A lot of people, well, some DMs will just see a player and be like, "Yeah, you're in." Or, they won't go to those lengths to make sure that the person coming in, or persons, with Eric as well, coming in fit the group.
I think I'm like almost certain I told you this, but I'm just going to say it again for the sake of story time. I was so adamant because we talked about possibilities before the interviews like officially started. Like, what are we kind of looking for? What do we want? Just so like we all had kind of a clear idea of what everyone was looking for. Mm-hmm. And I was so adamant, John, that I was like, we're getting one person. That's it, Yeah. Like, we're getting one and no more. Like, I don't even remember why I was so certain. I think it was just because like, Jamie was taking a break at the time, and, we were waiting for him to come back. And I was just like, 5 is a good number. We'll get a fourth one in. And then when Jamie comes back, we'll have 5. And that's like the perfect number. And I think that's kind of where my head was. And, just like the more people you introduce, the more complicated it gets. And it's just going to be hard. And then we did the interview with yourself and Eric. And there was a third who got to the final kind of round of interviews of people that we were interested in, but it was like between you and Eric for sure. Like there was no debate about that. And I remember everyone was just kind of like, okay, so we're all here. What's like our immediate gut reaction? Like we don't need to make decisions, but what are we thinking? And I was just like, okay, can I go first? And I was like, I know you guys are going to give me grief for this, but I want them both. And everyone was so surprised because I was so adamant that we were only having one person, and I didn't want to hear anyone even fighting for 2 people, and I was the one that broke first. But both of you just wowed me so much with your interview, just because like you had all the qualities that like at the very least, I won't speak for everyone else, that I look for in like a fellow D&D player, where there was just like this, this like love for like the game. There was this respect to like the world and the story that you were bringing, that you wanted to make sure that I'm just going to say Tauren in this case, because that's who I ended up joining. Like you wanted to make sure that Tauren fit into the world, not the world was changing so that Tauren could be in it.
Right.
Which I always appreciate that in a player, like a player who realizes, hey, I have these ideas, but sometimes ideas don't always work in the world. So hopefully we can kind of come together and make both sides work. Like, I think that's such an important aspect as a player to bring to the table. And both you and Eric were so open to that. And you both were nice and funny. And I was just like, I feel like these guys are just chill. And I feel like they're both going to add so much. And then you guys had your 0.5, and I was like, yeah, we made the right call. I love the 0.5 with Tauren and Evrand. Like, it felt like you guys had played together for years.
Yeah, that was that experience was so cool. I mean, you've played for a while. You know when you get into a group and there's just no synergy at all, and people are talking and then there's dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the worst feeling. But when that 0.5 started, and Eric and I just like, I don't know, like you said, it felt like we've been playing for like ever, and that's just a testament to Eric, who's also chosen for the game. So the two of us, and everyone else, that was a reason why I wanted to join the group, because I just knew that it would be so cohesive.
Well, and I'll stand by it. Like, I felt like you two just came in so seamlessly that now, like, I can't picture a Pharaoh without either of you two. Like, I know sessions wise, I haven't done the math, which I probably should have in research for this episode. But in the grand scheme of things, Tauren and Evrand haven't been around for the longest time, but they already feel just so connected to everything, but in like a realistic, like cool way. Like, it feels like they're already both bringing new things to the table that a Pharaoh just hasn't had to experience or deal with quite yet, and just giving more opportunities to everyone else and yourselves to just kind of shine. I think that's just fantastic.
Right. Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
All right, I want to talk about Tauren for a second.
Okay.
So what was okay? What was like the main inspiration behind Tauren? Because Tauren's what I like to coin as an amnesiac character who has a very mysterious past. It's a trope, but we like tropes. Tropes are there for a reason, and they can be very cool. And I like Tauren as a character, so don't take that as a criticism. But like, I'm just curious, what was kind of the inspiration, and why did you choose to go in that direction? Because I feel like, especially with like amnesiac characters, I feel like there needs to be a lot of trust between DM and player, because it's kind of you giving the reins and telling the DM, like, hey, whatever you make, I'm going to roll with it, and I'm going to be cool with it, because you can't be like, well, that's not true, because it's like, well, you didn't really make a backstory, so it kind of is.
The inspiration for Tauren is hard to pin down, because Tauren is the second character I ever made.
Really?
He was created 4 years ago. And I've always loved the class of barbarian, being someone who, likes to work out and do stuff like that. Barbarians are very kind of resemblance of kind of what I like, but also at the same time, I mean, Dragonborns are just cool.
True.
They're just cool. The visualization of a Dragonborn is just dope to me. But Tauren was, I would say, Tauren is what is closest to me as a person than any of my other characters. Just a little bit more exaggerated. Not that I have amnesia or anything, but I am very forgetful.
I was going to say, do you also not know your past, or secretly a weapon created in this massive war?
No,
and
not that. Not that.
An embarrassment for the Republic that you served.
No, but
spoiler for Explorers of Farah, by the way.
I'm a very forgetful person, and sometimes I am a very nice person. So Tauren is just the exaggeration of those two.
Mm-hmm.
As a character, he tries to find the best in people and do the best that he can, but he also suffers from self-doubt. So another thing. But originally, Tauren started off as a barbarian. To bring it back to what I said before, which probably didn't make sense until I said this. He started off as a barbarian in a campaign I played very, very long time ago. I gave him the didn't know anything from his past trope, because as a player, I love surprises, and I will go with anything the DM throws at it. you've probably seen from the games, I'm over exaggeratedly talking about, oh yeah, kill Tauren, or like I'll run into battle, and like me as a player, I just love the excitement of the game. So when the DM comes up with some crazy thing like Tauren was a powerful weapon used by evil people, that's cool to me. Joe could have done anything with it, and I would have been like, hell yeah, this is dope. But I made him specifically as a first-time D&D player to be like, I don't know how to write backstories. DM, do it for me. And then eventually being like, I love the idea of the DM being like, just being able to take this thing and be like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want with it. But Torrent's had many iterations. He's been in campaigns before, and they just always have failed. All campaigns that he's been in have completely gone awry and just completely failed. He's actually an NPC in my world because of that. But then when I saw this game, I was like, I need to bring him back. And hopefully, if I'm picked, either one of them, because in Raleigh was the first character I created. The other character I would have played.
The Tiefling.
The Tiefling. So I felt very comfortable in the fact that I could be like, okay, I can bring this character back and actually give him a true story that will finish. And I can actually see something with this character.
Right on. And I mean, I think already, because again, I love Evrand and Tauren. I think that you guys have done a wonderful job in a very short amount of time, just, making these people feel very real and getting them just involved in the thick of it and standing shoulder to shoulder with these people who have been around for 50, 60 plus sessions from the beginning, basically.
Right.
And, because I mean, that was me at one point. Like, I joined at the session 14 mark, I think. And so, I was nervous as hell going in, because I mean, I joined by myself. I didn't join with a buddy that I could just latch onto and be friends with.
Right, right.
Not that I'm saying you had an easier time than me, but I was just nervous by myself. But So, in the amount of time that you've been there with Tauren, since this is a character that's very close to your heart, do you have kind of a favorite moment from the campaign with Tauren? Whether it was just something cool or something character related or a conversation that you thought was powerful, just if you had to pick one moment from this campaign that you were just like, yeah, I feel like when I think of this campaign in Tauren, this is what I'll think about. What do you think you'd pick?
One moment?
Or you can give me a top 3 or whatever if you want. I'll let you pick more than one.
The first moment that came to mind was the arm wrestling match with Alec.
That was a great one.
It was the introduction to Tauren. And when I was brought in and talking to Joe and I saw Alec as a character, I was like, oh, Tauren and Alec are going to be best friends. Like, they're just two strong people, That's one. I think, man.
Alec,
I think
also, go ahead.
No, you go.
I mean, I just think it's funny, just because I remember that Tauren was originally a zealot barbarian, and that was the one thing we said to you in the interview was Tauren sounds awesome, and we love the idea of Tauren, but there's a problem. We have a character who's literally that same class and subclass. And immediately you were like, oh shit, that can change, because I think we asked, would you still like that character idea, but if they were something else, whether a fighter or a paladin or something, and you were like, oh yeah, totally, no problem.
Yeah.
And it ended up being nothing, but I think it's just funny, because in some way I always imagine that Tauren just kind of narrows his eyes and he's like, there's something about Alec, she has something that's mine. In my head, I just always imagine it's I love her, she's like a sister to me, but there's just something about her. It just feels wrong.
I think another moment that was really impactful and cool to play through was in the underground city when Varnast came to talk to Tauren while he was on the roof. That was a very cool moment. It was shoot, I forget why he was so upset. Because he had a memory flashback.
Yeah, I was was it the whole we realized that maybe he was a weapon and killed a lot of people with his bare hands?
And then, oh man. Wow.
I mean, you already picked two.
Fighting the dragon, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was pretty badass.
I think third thing though would be during the 0.5. Only because it solidified me feeling so good about this decision and being brought in, because when Joe was running the game and Oyvind and Tauren were during their introduction session, Joe put in front of Tauren, it felt like purposely, and I loved it. He gave Tauren an opportunity to use his strength to save people. And that was so impactful and just cool, because I immediately realized, oh snap, the DM tailors towards the players. And I didn't at that time, I was brand new.
Yeah.
It was just cool to see. It made me appreciate the Joe in the game immediately.
So I completely get what you're saying, because so I don't think you've watched too much of Salamander Coast, but Morwen Dolsky is my character in that game, and she is a strength-based fighter. And as much as I love her, I was a little worried going into it, because I feel like, just with how D&D is set up, if you just go purely by the rules, I feel like dex-based warriors are pretty much universally always better than strength-based warriors. Because dexterity is tied to so much crap that's useful.
Right.
Because
the strength is kind of tied. It's out there by itself. Yeah,
it's it helps athletics, and it's and your carrying capacity, and it's no one keeps track of that. Not really,
Nope.
But but yeah, again, it dexterity is attached to initiative. It's attached to to hitting your weapon if you have a finesse weapon, which is very easy to get a hold of a decent finesse weapon.
It's attached to your armor.
It's attached to stealth, sleight of hand, dex saving throws, probably the most common saving throw in the game.
Yep.
Whereas
besides wisdom.
Yeah, those two, And so it's just man, Dex just has so much going for it. That's how do you even justify being a strength-based character? And then all the best strength-based armor, you get disadvantage on stealth. It comes with negative flaws, even if you have a perfect 20 strength. So I always kind of thought that was a rip personally, and I hope it's something that D&D actually kind of goes on to work on, because I don't think it's entirely balanced. But apologies for that rant. My point of that story is that Morwen Dolsky, who is a strength-based character, Joe has let her do so much cool stuff with her strength, because she has 20 strength. Does Tauren have 20 strength? I'm pretty sure he does.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And so, there's so
we like our strong characters around here in RWA.
We do. And Joe's just let Morwen do a bunch of really cool strength-based stuff that normally most people just, most DMs would just be nah. That's completely against rules as written. That's not how that works. There's no way. But I think Joe realizes that just, again, strength kind of gets the shaft sometimes over dex, just because they get so much with it. And at the end of the day, Joe's very much for the rule of cool if the player comes up with an idea that's really out of the box, but he's just okay, well, what are your stats? Could you pull it off? He's just fuck it, try it, let's see what happens. And when it works, he allows for some really cool stuff to happen. And that's one of the things I love about Joe as a DM, is just he does put his foot down, he does say no on occasion, but sometimes he's just yeah, why not? Let's see what happens. And I think that's great that he's at least willing to kind of give it a chance. Because I feel a lot of DMs are kind of scared to step out of the lines,
I totally agree.
All right, so quick transition, because we've been talking pretty much solely about Tauren right now. I want to jump over to Evrand.
Oh boy.
So before we get into Evrand as a campaign, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Joe, because we love Joe at RWA. He's the guy. That was confirmed in the first episode of Roll Call. He's the guy.
He is the guy.
And so, as a fellow DM, what's something that you feel like you're either learning from Joe or you want to learn from Joe? What's something that he does really well that you wish that you were better at, or you want to get better at from his example?
Man.
And don't say everything, that doesn't
No,
count.
I think, to start this off, one of the main reasons I also loved and wanted to join this community and join the game is when I was watching the videos. Joe's DMing style and just him as a person, and those who are listening and are part of RWA and regularly join the calls and talk, we have a lot in common, Joe and I. A significant amount of things in common. DMing style is I believe one of them, and that's one of the reasons why I was like, yes, I want to be a part of this. However, Joe does things that I have not even thought of. His storytelling is amazing. And just being a player in just, I think maybe 11 or 12 sessions, probably a little more. I can already tell he's set up such a massive world and story in front of us as the players that we haven't uncovered, but seeing it kind of unravel from the other campaigns that he runs, it's just insane. My brain does not think that far ahead, and I don't think it can. So it's crazy to see that, as well as, I've always said that to him, that he is crazy, but I fully support and tip my hat to him for running 3 homebrew campaigns, one of which I think is in a different timeline, if I'm correct. Or had some time stuff go on.
There was, Salamander Coast did some time travel, and they altered the timeline, and we're not really sure how that affects the other 2 games for certain right now. And I'm not even going to speculate, because that is a deep, deep, deep rabbit hole I will fall down if I start to do that.
On top of that, he's a tremendous actor as well. He does theater and he does all the things. Because he's on camera, you can see his facial expressions and, the way his mannerisms and everything. I believe in one of the sessions in Evrand, I even told him that the way he approached things, I believe it was with Eldar stuff. It challenged me as the DM, as a role player, to up my game, because I was like, oh shit, he's coming at me with some really strong emotions. I got to match that. So I think those are the main things that I hope to learn and pick up on from Joe as a DM, for sure.
I mean, in terms of the 3 ongoing campaigns and the breadcrumbs that have been dropped, absolutely. I don't think I've ever gone on one of my full-blown, conspiracy board rants with you, but I've had many conspiracy board rants with the other players as I've been trying to piece together the clues as to what's actually going on in these campaigns. Because there's so much. Joe's over there playing 3D chess, and I'm over here playing tic-tac-toe, and I can't get 3 in a row, and it makes me upset. And meanwhile, he's taking my bishop or whatever, and I'm just like, no, I don't understand.
How does chess work?
I don't know, man. I believe the fastest you can lose is 2 moves each.
Wow.
I believe that's the fastest way you can lose. I could be off on that. It's either 4 or 5. Anyways, Ryan's fun fact for the day. Oh, man. But going back to Evrand. So, Evrand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I might have misheard, but Evrand is a campaign that you, at the very least, it's a world that you kind of ran before, right? Was that the campaign that ended before joining Avera?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So, was it just the same world, or has the beginning of this very much kind of lined up with the beginning of that campaign? Was Eldar kind of the first big bad in that?
Oh, no.
The first time you ran it? No? Okay, so we're getting all fresh material. That's cool.
Everything. The beginning of last campaign started in the kingdom of East Varia, in the capital named Alden. And there was totally different things happening. The last iteration, I talk about it sometimes. The last iteration of Evrand came to a crashing halt due to toxicity in the group. So the world has been around, and unfortunately that game had to end, which is why I went searching for a group shortly after to be a player as. And this is the same world. Things have been changed since then, like the timeline. The various places have been updated using my new skills over the years of DMing instead of, newbie DM. Places have been added to the map to fill out the world more. Lore has been created. All kinds of new things are a part of this campaign, as well as things that happened in the last campaign that drastically changed the world. That's still there. And some of the stories of the players that played in the last campaign that were not toxic and, great people, their stuff still lives on within the world.
Nice.
But yeah, this current iteration of the world is just more fleshed out, I think, and more vibrant.
So, just cutting out the toxic people that were in your group, like, we don't need to talk about them. Focusing on the good, because we love our positive vibes here on our
yeah.
What would you say is like the biggest difference between that group that was playing and this group that you're playing with right now? Like, what are the different vibes? Like, what are you kind of excited about? Of just like, okay, this is different, and you feel like it could just kind of bring something new to Evrand, if that makes sense.
Oh, everything. I know that's a broad answer. This group that has come together to grace me to play in the world that I've created and allow me to DM is the best group I've DM'd for ever.
Nailed it.
And it is by a landslide. When I ran the 0.5s for everybody, I was, gushing to my wife of like, oh my God, like this is going to be great. This is going to reinvigorate me as a DM, because for a while there I did not want to do it because of what happened with the last one. This group is more responsive. This group feels more like a group of friends rather than people who found each other to play D&D. This group is more talkative, but at the same time gives air to everybody at the table when they need to have their talks and their conversations. It's just a whole different vibe, and everything is just positive. Everything is better.
Was it episode 2 or episode 3 where legit the first hour and a half to 2 hours was just us in the morning going and talking to each other, and like you didn't, no offense, have to do anything for like the first half of the session, and you were just like, this is great. It was pretty early on. Like, I want to say it was session 3, but maybe it was 2. I'm not sure.
I think I forget. It was very early on though. I remember it was probably one of the first sessions where I had little dialogue to say, and I was so happy about it, because it just solidified that, man, these people love D&D and are amazing role players.
So obviously, like, I agree with you. Like, I love everyone's character so far. I'm interested and excited to learn more, because obviously everyone knows more about their character than they've revealed, I think.
Well, oh, for sure.
Yeah, which, I mean, classic, as it should be. So, if you want to, say something about every player, that's fine. But if you want to just narrow it down to one, I'll accept that, because I asked Joe a similar question in the last episode of Roll Call.
Okay.
But like, what was kind of a character concept that someone pitched to you, and you either just like immediately were like, yes, love it, super excited, can't wait, or like kind of surprised you just in terms of like, okay, this is a really unique character idea. I haven't really played with something like this before, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Like, just what's one of them that stood out to you? Because again, I'm guessing you could say something for everyone, but just who would like what one would you pick? Or again, say multiple if you want. I'm fine either way.
I think that the one that surprised me the most in a great way, and we had to have many conversations about this character and how it would work, and just everything in general about the character, was Gak.
Yeah, I had a feeling that might be the answer.
For those who don't know and have not watched, Gak is a wizard who cannot read and has an 8 intelligence, I believe. And to everyone who is a rules lawyer listening is going, that can't work. But it does, because we homebrewed some stuff and figured it out. And Gak is such an amazing, great character. I had my reservations at first. I did. I was like, oh God, how are we going to make this work? But I feel like we've made it work perfectly. And there is a lot of juicy backstory / the story in general that Gak will unfold over this campaign.
I think Nick does such a great job with Gak because one, like I was nervous to roleplay Gideon with Gak just because Ryan loves to laugh and he loves jokes and he'll like cry laughing frequently. To where I was just like, how on earth is Gideon going to talk to this person without Ryan just completely losing his mind in the best way possible? You know, and Gideon and Gak have had a few conversations, and even then, I think I've really struggled to not just laugh and just delay the game by me trying to regain my composure. But oh my gosh, like I'm so glad that Discord has a mute button because there's been so many times where Gak will say something and I've had to mute because I'm about to like choke on the water I'm drinking.
Like, there's many times where I'm playing an NPC and I just lose it. And sometimes it's even after the fact. Like you know, for those, you just have to go watch clips of like when he called the farmer or asked what the farmer wanted to be called, Daryl or Phil.
His name was Daryl Orville, and he just misheard basically.
Yes.
That clip of you just like silently laughing because you're muted is one of my favorite clips of you.
I showed it to my wife. She even laughed.
The editing work that Joe did on that clip, like S tier, like it just made it so much more
funny.
I
think Nick did it.
Oh, did Nick do it? Okay, good job.
I think he did.
I just assumed it was Joe. Well done, Nick.
I mean, obviously you said, mention one, and I'll probably want to mention everyone else's. It's hard to like pin down a favorite. I just know that Gax stood out from everyone as, okay, how are we going to make this work? Kind of thing. Knight's character Vey, when he pitched the idea to me, I was in love with it. For those who don't know, he's also completely created a section of my world for his character that will be brought to light in the campaign probably shortly. Obviously your character Gideon, I love the origins and I love the potential for that character and what we can do with it. Also being that the for no spoilers here, but being the race that you chose didn't exist in my world previously beforehand. It's very cool to see that and to see how that grows. I love the dynamic between Rian and Yrsa. And that was a thing before the campaign started. They wanted their characters to know each other. Their characters are very well fleshed out, backstory wise, and it's so hard to just say one. Basil, Rachel's character, I love the backstory that she has and the direction she wants to go and the direction that her and I have talked about what the character is going through. So I'm excited for all of it. I love them all.
I love Basil just because I never know what that girl's gonna do, and I love it. Like,
oh yeah,
do you remember
razor blades in her hair?
Yo, yeah, but like, do you... sorry, but
that's probably one of the most left field things I've ever had happen in the game, and I love it so much.
Well, and it was just brought up so casually, like. Yeah, can I just put those in my hair? Like, who does that? Who's just like, this will be the plan? It's like, what are you gonna do with that anyway? You're a cleric. Like, what's the plan if you were a rogue? But yeah, just like, do you remember the scene in Shrek when like Robin Hood attacks and then Fiona just like busts out the karate and everyone's just staring at her and she just like beats the crap out of everyone?
That's Basil.
I feel like that's Basil. Because like anything she does at this point, I'm just like, yeah, that checks out. Like, she's died, like, 3 times, like, she's come back.
Nearly died.
Time. Yeah, I mean, she said she died. So, I mean, I don't know what happened, but she said she died. She broke Jesus' record. She's come back 3 times. So that's why I voted for her to have the cult.
I cannot wait to see what comes out of that. I know Knight's going to be making something on TikTok for it.
Oh, gosh. I'm sure it'll be gold, whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I love Basil just because very much like Gag, I also sometimes am just like, I don't know what to expect from Basil at times, and it's great, you know? It's absolutely great. And then I loved how she called the rest of us unhinged when she's the one putting razor blades in her hair and shit, but you know, whatever. You know, teach their own.
Yep.
Rachel, if you're listening to this, we love you. I love Basil. She's great.
Oh,
I'm very much looking forward to her and Gideon's relationship. Man. I've also really enjoyed just like, you know, because obviously I'm just going to speak from my point of view. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I really loved how, like, you know, because you brought up your concerns with Gideon when I originally pitched it, and, you know, you were very honest about just like, I'm not sure about this. And, you know, you heard out the pitch, and you know that anything you would have decided, I would have been like, okay, you know, I might have picked like a different class or something, but just because I really liked that idea. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're the DM, and if it's something that you don't want, you know, I'm fine with that. Like, it's important for, you know, you to feel like your needs need to be met as well as a DM, you know?
I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, it's just, that's how the table works. We're all a team. Like, we're all on the same team. Like, it's important that everyone's having fun. Like, especially the DM, to be honest, because, like, yes, everyone's great and important and does their part, but there is no game without the DM at the end of the day. I was going somewhere with this, and I forgot.
You were talking about Gideon's character.
Yes. But I really enjoyed how, like, thematically you've let a big part of Gideon's story, which, like, I don't think this is, like, spoilery, but, you know, Gideon being someone who was going to basically kind of be, like, utilized to, like, as, like, this, you know, means of, like, destruction or war, and wanting to be something that was good, you know, like, wanting to... And he's still trying to figure out, like, what exactly that means, and I enjoy that he's struggling with that.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed, and it didn't really occur to me until you actually narrated it happening, that I was like, oh man, like, this was actually a much more kind of beautiful moment for Gideon than I realized. But, like, I love the fact that you let me take the Eldar necklace, something that was used for these awful purposes, and Gideon reworked it into something that was just, like, good. And, you know, like, that's kind of so much of what he wants for himself and what he's trying to do. And, you know, a lot of other DMs just, like, wouldn't have let me do that. They would have just been like, nope, like, you can have this, or you can sell it, or you can throw it away. But, like, those are your options. But, you know, you heard me out. Obviously, you created this, like, whole system of, like, how Gideon can, like, make magical items and, like, what it costs him and stuff. And it's cool, you know? And it's just... It's been very enjoyable to kind of play with that with Gideon and just feeling like, I don't know, just like his wants and his desires feel real to the world. It's not just him randomly doing experiments every night that don't have like a real impact. Like, it's actually affecting the party, and like that's like the main thing between him and Basil right now is he's trying to figure out more about this sludge, even though he's at a complete dead end with that. He doesn't know what to do.
Right.
But that's something I'll worry about later.
The Venom.
Yeah, exactly. But
no, that's so glad to hear that. I mean, I try to make sure that as the DM, I can meet the needs of the players rather than shut them down or, I think any good DM does that. And when you came to me with the idea of like, yeah, can I make new magical items out of current ones? There was hesitation, but it was more of like, okay, how do we make this work? Like, I can't just allow you to make magical items, but we have to have some sort of system to do it, where there is a possibility for failure. That comes with anything when you're a tinkerer and you're inventing things. So, no, I enjoyed that, being able to take such a, in the eyes of, after everything, such a evil thing. Well, something that was used for such evil things and turn it into something so harmless and beautiful that, now Ursa gets to use.
Yeah. And I mean, because, like, that's the whole thing, is, like, one could argue, like, well, it's still, like, exerting influence on creatures. Like, couldn't that be misused? And it's like, yeah, that's why Gideon gave it to Ursa, someone who he knows would never do that.
Correct.
And so, I don't know. I just think it's cute, and I think it's just important for Gideon to kind of realize that, because, like, if I had to pick, like, a favorite Gideon moment throughout the campaign, and this is just me gushing about it now, which is fine. We don't have a script, so it's my show. I can do what I want. So,
oh yeah.
I have like a top 2 Gideon moments, even though like I feel like he's had really good moments with everyone so far. But like one, I loved the chat that he had with Felicity. If you're listening, I'm sorry. The chat he had with your character, whose name I'm struggling. Adina, thank you. I was going to say Amina, and I was like, that's not right. I was like, that's not right. I was like, that's not right at all. But like after leaving the bandit cave and like getting her chest and like her like ledger back or whatever exactly, it was like a ledger, right? Pretty sure
it was a chest with, it was a ledger that basically had all of their family's transactions in it.
But yeah, I really loved the conversation that they had about like moving forward and feeling like loss and regret, and like, yeah, these people are dead, but like they can still win in a way, and like you have to be strong, and like you have to not let this hold you back. Not as in like, forget it and move on, but it's just like, yeah, this happened and it's terrible, but like you were a victim, and like what happened wasn't your fault. Because obviously, right. I think that's something that Gideon's still trying to accept about himself, because he even said like it's hard, like it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but you need to do it. And I imagine that someone, not to be revealed right now, but I imagine that someone said very similar words to Gideon at one point in his life. And we'll leave it at that for right now. The other one that I really enjoyed, just because it's not over yet by any means, but I loved the kind of very polite debate that Rhiannon and Gideon had about Lot and his fate, and how that was right or wrong or both or neither. Just because, like, for those of you who don't know me, I hate like debate and people talking about politics, because I feel like it usually just turns into people yelling slurs at one another and calling each other idiots, rather than two people actually trying to find a solution that works best for people. But like, I'm not going to go down that whole thing. But I love the fact that like Rhiannon and Gideon were able to talk and both acknowledge like flaws in their argument, and just recognize that like, man, shit's complicated and that sucks. I wish that there were easy answers to this, but sometimes there's just not. And right. I think it's hard for Gideon because, again, he's trying to turn himself into someone who does the right thing. And now he's like, well, what is the right thing? Like, how do you figure that out?
Mm-hmm.
There's no rule book for life that says, well, this needs to be done this way and this needs to be done that way. And for Gideon, someone who's a very kind of just literal thinker and just kind of looks at the world, not necessarily in like black and white lens, but just very kind of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of hard for him to see these people that he very much cares about and really likes and respects to have these different opinions from him. because I think he's now just kind of wondering, like, well, is there something wrong with me then? Because it feels like I'm the only one that feels this way. And I think he's just kind of finally growing up and learning to adjust when he just hasn't had to do that in such an environment before. And I think it's just an interesting story to tell for Gideon, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
I am. One of the things I love most about this party is, or the people playing, is the characters who I've created in the party dynamic. I'm very excited to see Gideon grow with this party, and on Gideon's side and those that are not Gideon be challenged on their, I don't want to say morality, but their thinking of certain things.
Yeah.
Because everyone comes from somewhere different and has a different opinion on things. And yeah, I'm super excited to see that. I mean, this next session will be, what, 13?
It feels like so much has happened for 12 sessions, and I mean that in the best possible way. Not like it's been rushed, but I just feel like there's been so much development with all these characters that's like, really only 12 sessions so far? Like, that doesn't sound right,
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair, technically a lot has happened.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a testament to you guys as players. Like, normally, in a random online game, because I've run into this, it would take someone 20 or more sessions to give out a small key part of their backstory, or to feel comfortable enough to talk about that with other people. With this party, it's from the beginning is when it started, and it just makes me excited.
There's just so much potential with this group, and I feel like everyone's come together so well. Because like you, I listened to all the 0.5s before we did our session 1, and all the 0.5s were awesome. Like, I really enjoyed them. But there's always that concern of like, okay, well, these characters are all great separate, but does that mean they're going to go together? Because,
right.
It doesn't always work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that everyone came together, I think it took a few sessions, but like by session 3, I was like, probably sooner, probably like session 2, I was like, oh yeah, this party's got it, Like, I'm so excited to see kind of like what happens with them all moving forward. And I feel like they've come together so seamlessly, and there's so many individual relationships going on. Because like, one of the things that I dislike about like a lot of like media that has like big groups in it is like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like, so I hate when like all the relationships are the same. So it's like, hey, that's the cool guy, he follows his own code, but he gets results, so we all like him. And like, that's the strong one. You need something done, you talk to him. Like, he doesn't say much, but he's loyal to a fault. And like, everyone has like the same relationship with like that character. Whereas like with this group in D&D, I feel like everyone has such a dynamic relationship to where it's not like, oh, Gideon and Basil have the same relationship as Gideon and Yrsa. Like, no, they're two completely different things so far. And like, like no one, like everyone really feels like they're just really looking at it and just being like, okay, well, how would I respond to Rianne, or how would I respond to Gak, or how would I respond to Gideon? And I feel like everyone's doing such a good job of making every interaction feel uniquely tailored to both characters that are involved, or more if it's a bigger group conversation. Yeah, I think that's probably Evrand's biggest strength, if I had, in terms of like the player party right now, is just how individualistic it feels in the best way possible. Because I think you don't get that a lot in D&D parties.
No, I don't think you do. The other thing that I love about this is that, I mean, same with Farah, it just feels like a bunch of friends playing D&D, It doesn't feel like random online people. Although, if we want to go to technicality, we are.
Sure.
But it feels like we've known each other for a long time, and we're playing D&D together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
With Evrand, those who do watch, you don't see the beforehand, but we'll just talk for like 20 to 30 minutes before we start playing. Like, it's just crazy. It's something I've been looking for a very long time in D&D.
So I'm gonna get a little personal here, if you're okay with that. But
Okay.
as everyone knows, we're on a little bit of a break for RWA right now. Not with Evrand, but like for RWA, you know. And obviously, you know, Joe's like working on his show, and he absolutely should be prioritizing in that, and he has like all of our support. But I'm not gonna lie, a little part of me was just kind of worried because I was like, man, you know, taking like 6 weeks off from like the game, that sucks because like I like these people, and they're part of my like weekly routine. Like, you know, it's Friday, like it's a Farah day, and you know, like it just becomes like a part of you after a while, and you're like, oh man. And so I'm not gonna lie, just like that part of my brain that always goes to like the worst possible thought. I was so worried of just like, man, is it just gonna be radio silence for like 6 weeks? You know, and it just hasn't been that. Like everyone's still been like making time for each other and just like hanging out and calling and checking in, and just, you know, like we're not just friends because we play this game together, and once the game's gone we're not friends. Like this is a, you know, true community that like we've started kind of building around us, and like true friendships that I think are going to last a very, very long time.
I think so too.
I'm just so grateful for that because, you know, I love you guys. And like there's a reason I volunteered to do this, you know.
Yeah.
I love my D&D, and I love talking with you guys, and it's so much fun. Like this what I'm doing right now, this isn't work in the slightest. Like I'm having a blast. Like we've been talking for like an hour already, just as a heads up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't feel like it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's just so natural. But like I think it's just so cool because, I mean, I quote Felicity a lot because she said this, and I think she's true. And I can't remember what the context of when she said it was, but she said, I think we're one of the few groups of people that made friends during the pandemic rather than lost them. And I think she's 100% right on that. And
yeah,
I mean, even you, John, like we haven't known each other that long in terms of like the grand scheme of things or RWA, but already I'm like, man, if John just like left the server one day, I would be really fucking sad. So don't you ever leave, I swear to God.
I'm stuck here.
Exactly.
Send help, everybody. You've heard it here first. They're keeping me.
You start tapping in Morse code on the microphone.
The feeling's completely mutual. I mean, the RWA is quite literally the only group now that I really talk to. You know, online and everything, and it's so weird, you know. I just saw a Reddit post, and from the Reddit post, I just feel so integrated into the community, and I feel so like welcome, and I just feel like I've found the people I've been looking for since taking on this incredibly time-consuming but great hobby.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just crazy to think about. It's just insane.
I mean, I think you and I are kind of in similar boats because, you know, we weren't part of like the original groups or anything, but like, and Joe, if you're listening to this, you know I love you, and you know I'm not upset with you, but like, John, I think we've talked about this. I was originally declined to join Afera. Like, I didn't get picked when I first applied.
What?
Oh, you don't know this story?
No.
Okay, story time. Okay, so Joe's probably listening to this before he posts it, and he's like, I'm either going to edit this out, or, God damn it, Ryan, is this going to come up in every roll call? No, not every roll call, Joe. Most people already know what happened. But since you don't, John, we'll have story time. So,
okay.
I was looking for a game during the pandemic, and I saw Explorers of Farah, and I read just like the brief synopsis, and I was like, well, this sounds like an interesting, unique world, which is always kind of what I look for. And so I applied, and long story short, I got to like kind of like, it was between like me and someone else, and they ended up going with this other person. And then I was like, okay, man, and you know, and Joe was really professional during the whole thing. He was like, hey, man, like I really like the character idea, and like I think you're great, but like I have to pick what I think's best for the group, and I think it's going to be this other person. So like, thank you so much, but you know, I unfortunately just like can't pick you at this time. And I was like, hey man, fair enough. You know, you got to pick who like you know who you feel is best for the group. Like no offense taken. And you know, it was very amicable.
Right.
It was very nice. And then it was like I don't remember how long, like 8 weeks, like 2.5 months later, something like that. And I was again on Roll20, and I just saw in my messages something, and so I clicked on it, and then I saw Joe was like the last person that I talked to besides this new message I got from like my friend or something. I don't remember what it was. And I was like, oh, I wonder how that game's going, you know, because again, I thought the world sounded cool. So I reached out and I was like, hey, Joe, don't know if you remember me, but like, you know, I just saw your message and I was wondering how the game was. So I thought I would just kind of reach out. And he was like, oh, man, that's so nice of you. Yeah, I totally remember you. And, you know, that's when he told me he like uploaded them to YouTube. So he's like, yeah, so you can like watch and listen if you want. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Because again, I love me a good D&D story, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was like 2 weeks. And at first he was like, oh, by the way, actually, this is perfect timing. I'm starting a new campaign with like my wife and like 2 other friends, and we were looking for more players. Like, would you be interested at like this time? And I was like, hell yeah, dude, because I was unemployed at the time, but we don't need to get into that. But but I was like, yeah, man. And then it was like 3 days later, he was like, so funny story, a spot actually opened up in Afera, the one that you originally applied for. Would you still want to play that? And I was like, yes, like of course I would. Yeah, because long story short, one of the player that he had picked over me just really didn't work out. Just, you know, not good for the party, and we'll just leave it at that. We don't need to go into details. And so I ended up joining, and so to this day, although it's gone very much down, but like the joke is that I always give Joe grief of like, yeah, man, remember when you didn't want me to join because you thought I just wouldn't fit in with everyone and I wasn't good for the campaign? He's like, go to hell, Ryan. Except for he's Joe, so he was much nicer than that and does not deserve any grief for that. Because, you know, it's hard to get to know people over like online and stuff, you know. Joe made the decision that he thought was best at the time. There's no hard feelings about that. I love Joe. He's a very dear friend to me. But yeah, so why did I do this? Oh, right. I remember. But like it like there's honestly times where like I'm just like laying in bed or I'm sitting there and I'm just like thinking, and I'm like, man, had I not just randomly reached out to Joe and taken a chance to just like check in and say hey with someone who I thought was a very nice person, like there's a chance that I still would have no part of RWA.
Yeah.
You know, and just like not knowing all of these people, like the fact that could have been my life right now really makes me sad. You know, I mean, like I'm happy that like they're a part of it, but the fact that it almost didn't happen is like crazy to me because I just love these people and just like being like, man, you know, the whole butterfly effect of like if I just hadn't done this one thing, like Joe probably wouldn't have reached out and been like, hey, would you still want to join a fair? I mean, it's possible, but we just don't know, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of crazy how it happens. Now I'm just kind of like, man, I'm just so lucky to have all these people in my life who I've grown to genuinely like really like and really care about, and I want nothing but the best for them. And it's just funny how life works, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just crazy, you know. I don't want to say destiny.
Yeah, that segment got a lot heavier than I meant for it to. I'm not gonna lie to you, so sorry about that.
No, it's great.
There's no set tone for roll call, so man.
As long as we don't have to mark the video mature, you know.
Nah, we don't have to fucking do that. No, I'm just kidding.
Well.
How many swear words can we say in the next 30 seconds? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
Start singing "Break Stuff" by Limp Bizkit. We'll figure it out.
Oh man. But yeah, so I'm just so grateful to be here, and I know that
me as well.
Yeah, I was about to say I know that I don't even need to ask for permission to speak on your behalf, but like I know you are as well, and I know so many other people feel the same way that it's just great to be here. And like I said, even when we're not playing these games, just like I love these people, and they've done. I feel like I'm a better person for knowing these people, which I think is the truest mark of a good friend.
I totally agree.
Man. Do you have any questions for me? I don't have a clever segue off of that very emotionally draining topic we just had.
I do have a question. It's about Evrand.
Okay.
So I come in as this new player. We get along. We're playing D&D together, and then all of a sudden, I think maybe 4 or 5 sessions in, I start messaging people and go, "Hey," maybe it was 6. I go, "Hey, I'm starting a campaign. You want to play in it?" So my question is, why did you say yes?
Pity, nothing else but sheer. No, I mean, I don't like repeating answers because it feels like I'm copping out. But from interacting with you in the very brief time, I mean, obviously doing the interview with you, and then playing with you in Afera, like I could tell that we were two people who had very similar mindsets into what we enjoyed out of D&D and kind of what we wanted out of it. To where I knew, I was like, I don't know exactly what John's bringing to the table, but he's going to give me the opportunity to do the things that are important to me, and he will make sure that I'm happy and having fun, because that's something that he wants, and I know that you worked with Joe, to where obviously you've kind of seen how, like, we were all working, to where there was no doubt that, like, you were going to be a good, thoughtful, kind, considerate DM, just because, again, after everything we've been through in Afera, there was no way that you were going to come in and just be like, okay, here's my DM PC who's level 10 and you guys are level 3 and look how fucking cool he is. And you just played with your action figures, basically, Because I've had DMs that do that, and let me tell you, pretty miserable experience.
Man,
yeah.
I haven't really had that happen, but I've heard horror stories about it, and I've seen videos. I mean, from watching me with, I think the last session or the session before that, no, it was last session. The first DM NPC, I guess you could say, that you guys encountered, I was bumbling. I didn't know how to run that guy.
Well, my favorite part was
you don't have to worry about.
You didn't realize it was his turn. That was the funny part. You were like, all right, and that's it. Who's up next? Oh shit, it's me! Like, you immediately got back up in your chair. You were like leaning back, like, yeah, I did it. And I was like, John. But like,
it's no turns over. Oh wait, it's my turn again. Okay.
But I mean, even just like, you're kind of, I don't know if you have like a set like week count or if you just do it after every arc, but you like check in and you just like made it clear, like, okay, what are like your do's and don'ts of D&D? What are your hard limits? Like, what do you not want in the game? What's something that you want addressed before we get started so that it doesn't come up because it makes you uncomfortable? What's, how are you feeling about your character? Are you happy with where they are? Like, what do you want to see more for them? And just like, again, it was 100% about us. It wasn't you being like, hey Ryan, so I love Gideon, but have you thought about not being super depressing? Not like one for like one session, like just one. Because if you could tone it down, that'd be super cool. Because
actually, Ryan, now that I have you here, can we talk about?
Yeah, man. What do you want to talk about?
No, never mind. We'll do this off camera.
Yeah? Okay. Oh, it's a secret. I got it. Okay, cool. But yeah, like everything was dedicated to making sure that like we were having fun and that you could craft a game that you'd obviously be proud of, because every DM needs to be proud of their game and stand by it. Yeah. But also making sure that you were hitting all of our checkboxes to make sure that your players were having a good time. And I think that is just a phenomenal sign of a DM. Because, I mean, like, at that point, I don't care if all the maps are just theater of the mind. Like, if you're making sure that everything we want is getting met, that's wonderful. Because so many people just don't care. They want to create the game that they want to create, and damn what anyone else wants, Right. Most DMs aren't like that, because most people are decent people, and I will stand by that. But some are like that, and it's sad. But I just knew that you weren't going to be that guy.
Well, we're only 13 sessions in. Just kidding.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. And 13's an unlucky
Now that you
number.
all, yeah, now that you're all attached to your characters and don't want to leave.
Are you going to kill Derek? We're going to get a letter saying he's dead.
Wait, who's Derek?
No, sorry, Dale.
Alan?
Alan, damn it, thank you. There's a lot of D names on my mind for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just can't wait for Alan to be revealed as the big bad evil guy. I think that'd be fantastic. He's just revealed to be like an information broker that's just like selling trade secrets to the highest bidder to start wars so that he can just get rich off of everyone's backs.
Oh, 100%. Damn, now I have to change them up because now you figured it out.
Yeah, I'm really good with my conspiracy boards. I don't know if I've told you about them. I see everything.
I think another segue into that, because we are still talking about Evrand. Well, I mean, I guess this is for those listening who haven't watched. How have you felt with Evrand so far, and the direction? I guess, like, what has been your? I mean, I assume you've played in a lot of games. A decent amount.
I mean, for D&D, I think it's a lot of games. Like, it probably hasn't been that impressive of a number, but for D&D, it's probably like, whoa, you found that many people willing to play with DMs? Like, you know? But,
so, I mean, what makes you feel like Evrand is unique and like, yeah, I like this campaign?
I mean, I think it's just that we are way more than the sum of our parts. I feel like everyone brings so much to the table, and it enhances what's already there. Because I feel like people just allow things to kind of organically evolve in such different ways. That's really cool to see. And like, you know, even if you took all the parts individually, like, oh, Basil, what a great character. Rianne, awesome character. Ursa, oh, what a great character. But like seeing all these people interact and seeing like how everyone goes out of their way to make sure that everyone feels like included and acknowledged and welcomed, it's just fantastic to see. And again, just I can only speak for myself, but I assume that like if you've been doing for me, like for everyone else what you've been doing for me, then I know that like everyone's needs and desires are like being met, and that's just I think it's just important to feel heard and acknowledged. And I think that's why a lot of people like in life aren't very happy sometimes, because like I don't think that like, you know, in like a job, I don't think you need people constantly just like, you know, kneeling at your boots and just being like, oh my gosh, you are the best person ever, you do no wrong, and you know, just like brown nosing. But sometimes it's just nice to be like, hey man, I just saw that you were working really hard today, just, you know, don't overdo it, but like thanks for everything you do. And just to feel seen and heard, and to have your needs kind of, I wanted to say verified, but that doesn't sound right, but just to have them be kind of like acknowledged that they exist, and someone just being like, I see you, you know, like very small things. So my birthday was yesterday, actually.
Oh, I did not know that. Happy birthday.
I keep that very close to the chest, so don't feel bad. Like I didn't tell anyone. So but yeah, like where I work, and obviously whenever this gets posted, it will not have been yesterday, so good luck figuring it out. But anyways, don't say what today's date is. Anyways, but like the general manager of like my location, because I work for Costco, like all he did was he bought a card and he just wrote like happy birthday Ryan in it, and he like delivered it to me while I was working. And again, it's not like it came with like a $50 like gift certificate or like a pay raise or anything, but it was just like, hey Ryan, I know I read your employee file and I know it's your birthday, and I hope you have a good one. I hope you do something fun after work or whenever your next day off is. And just, you know, I didn't gain anything from that, but just the fact that I felt seen like was enough, you know. And I think it's just important that people feel like they're seen, because I think a lot of people sometimes feel like they're invisible, and that's sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do not feel invisible in Evrand. is the point of that. I feel very seen and very heard, and I feel like I'm acknowledged, and I feel, challenged and pushed, and all this really cool stuff. But I never feel ignored or forgotten. And
I'm glad.
I think that's wonderful.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And that's the thing about D&D. Like, we have everyone to thank for that. Like you, the other players, a little bit of myself for just like getting involved and getting people stuff to work with. Like that's the great part about D&D is we all come together to create this like great thing. And
it's a collaboration.
Yeah, and I mean when you get really good D&D, I think it's just some of the best stuff you'll experience.
Yeah. It's a great feeling.
Man, John, this has been a great episode. Like,
I have enjoyed this very much.
Just, thank you so much for coming on. But I think we're at a good stopping point. What do you think? I think we've covered a lot of ground. And
I think so. I think any longer, and people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, they're talking so much," Yeah.
Get therapy. No, I'm just kidding.
This is.
I know. Hey, D&D does not replace therapy, but D&D helps. Anyways,
for sure.
At least good D&D helps.
Yeah, I've had a blast, and I've enjoyed this greatly. Thank you for having. Yeah.
There's one last thing I want to ask you, because I asked the same thing of Joe at the very end of roll call.
Okay.
Obviously, I would never, ever ask you to give away something coming up in Evrand. But what I will ask for is a hint. Can you just give me, and you can say no to this, by the way. Much like all the questions, all my guests have the right to refuse to answer any questions they don't want to answer. But can you give me just 2 words to vaguely hint at something in the future and give no context, just 1 or 2 words?
Oh, man. Oh, this is hard.
Joe gave us 1 of each for Farah, SC, and Isles.
He gave 2 words or 1 word?
No, 1 word each for each campaign. So like I said, if you just don't want to do 1 word, that's fine.
I'll say... Damn, this is hard.
You're all eagerly waiting.
I know. Oh, man, I'm on the spot.
Potentially millions of people waiting for you to get this answer.
Well.
Potentially.
Potentially
could be billions, actually. Not to add more weight to your shoulders right now.
I don't know if I could just give 2 words.
You just give 1 word.
If I can't think of 2, how am I supposed to give 1?
Well, I imagine if you came up with 1 and just couldn't think of a second one, that's how you would do that. That's called subtraction.
I would say I can't think of just 2 words, so I'm going to break your rule.
Okay, do what you want.
The real story is about to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you not to elaborate any further. I think that was plenty.
Okay.
Gotta leave people wanting more, John. Gotta leave people wanting more.
There's a 1 word backstory. There you go. There's your word.
You said you couldn't come up with 1.
Well, I just did.
Damn you! You lied to me. Oh my gosh. But John, sincerely, thank you so much for coming on. Was really happy to have you for my second guest in this kind of revival of roll call.
I feel very honored.
I'm super excited for just, the future and what's coming. And whatever it is, it's going to be great. I just know that for a fact. And I just can't wait.
Thank you for your trust, and I am also very excited for the future. And I'm just excited every time I get to play with everybody here. So
yeah,
it makes the week a lot better.
Definitely. All right, gang. But we are going to wrap up this episode of Roll Call. So thank you so much for joining. Right now, again, the 3 campaigns are on a hiatus until late in May, right around the 21st, I believe, is when we're aiming to restart. But again, every other week, Evrand is posting and streaming.
Every week.
Oh, every week now. Okay.
It is every week now.
It's every week now. Excellent.
Yeah.
I did not get that updated in my email. That's okay.
It's okay.
Or maybe I didn't read it. Also possible. I sent Joe.
Well, I forgot to send it, so.
Okay. That would do it. That would do it.
I believe Evrand currently on RWA's channel is up to episode 8. Whereas we are on episode 13 live, so
crazy. Love it though. Love it.
I do believe as well this week, tomorrow, instead of the normal Evrand game, I will be running a battle royale between Basil, Gak, Rian, and Yrsa.
Is that going to be recorded?
It will be recorded.
Oh, sick! I read the announcement obviously because I'm in Evrand. In case people didn't pick up the context clues, I just wanted to explain that.
Yeah.
But
it is.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I wasn't sure if that'd be recorded or if that was just for fun. But that's gonna be sick. Because then even if I miss it, I can watch it later. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
All right, but again, John, just thank you so much. Hope to have you on again for a future episode. I hope you had a lot of fun. And to everyone who's listening right now, just thank you so much. And we will see you next time on Roll with Advantage and Roll Call!